Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Make him the cutest that I've ever seen. Give him two lips like roses. Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Make him the cutest that I've ever seen. Give him two lips like roses and clover, and tell him that his lonesome nights are over. Sandman, I'm so alone, don't have nobody to call my own. Please turn on your magic beam. Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream.
Good evening and welcome to Nox Mente. Tonight's guest is author, seven-time author, Gordon Rupe. Seven-time true crime author, Gordon Rupe. Gordon, welcome to the show. Go on. Oh, I was muted. I'm sorry. Gordon.
Yo.
I've already introduced you. I'm sorry you couldn't hear me.
Oh, we're chatting in here in chat because you have to be quiet.
All right, let's start over. Tonight's guest is Gordon Rupe, true crime author of over 7 novels. Got a new one coming out. What did you say, next couple weeks? Next month?
Yeah, next month.
There you go. So, Gordon, welcome to the show.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hello, Gordon. It's good to meet you officially.
Hello.
On air.
Hello, Nish. It is good to not see you.
Yes.
I'm glad I'm the only one who just has their name. You know, now I don't feel so. You know, because last time I was on this chat, everyone had a camera but me.
Yeah, I'm always that one.
And I was like, you know, so ghetto fabulous. It was ridiculous.
Solidarity, brother. Solidarity.
Ghetto fab. I love it.
Oh, you know what? I should ask. What's like the language on this show?
Oh, we're adult.
Whatever you want, sister girl.
Yeah. You let it fly.
Well, I didn't know. I
mean, I don't know that we actually have a warning about that, but we don't censor people. And I'm known every once in a while to be a sailor, so.
And that's why you're going to be my new best friend.
That's
we're
my
besties
line.
now.
That's my line. That's like my new favorite line.
Oh yeah, Jerry.
Oh yeah, I met a guy I trained with 2 weeks ago. Whenever he was saying that to people when they told him good stuff. You're my new best friend. It was just really funny.
It's gonna be a meme. You should start working on get your troll memes going on that.
That dude owns it, Kenny. You own it.
All right, well let's get into Nox Mente, another episode. So Gordon, give us an idea of, like, paint a picture of your early life, everything that that sticks out from your earliest memories, and if there are dreams in there, that's also excellent. But we're kind of looking for stuff that may have formed the young Gordon. So symbols.
Gordon, oh man.
Yes, even early TV shows.
Can I send a copy of this to my therapist, by the way?
Yes, absolutely.
It'll save me so much time in therapy.
I think
we'll help
that
you
was
out
one of
here.
the requirements on the document and they signed before the show.
Yeah, I was homeless for the better part of a decade. And because of that, I've been diagnosed with PTSD. So but let's see.
That's hard. PTSD is hard to deal with. I mean,
there's this bastard who lives next door to me, across the way, and he likes to chop his own firewood, and he does it at like 10 o'clock at night.
Oh man!
And so I hear those noises, and I jump out of my chair.
Yes.
Let's see, formed young Gordon. Well, I was born. I was stillborn. I had a twin brother. He didn't live.
Is this for real? That's for real?
Yeah. No, yeah. I've been clinically dead 3 times.
Oh, I can't wait to dig into that. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just actually kind of thrilled to talk about that.
Oh, no worries. No, it's funny. A lot of people are like, "Oh my God, that is so awesome." I'm like, yeah for you.
I know. Stillborn though is extra. There's a lot there.
I was born on Friday, September 13th.
Oh my goodness. Are you the seventh child of the seventh son?
And as I said, my twin died. And they didn't realize I was alive until Monday.
Oh.
And it's lucky stroke. One of the nurses saw the body bag moving. And so what they did to cover their ass was on the birth certificate, it says September 16th.
So your brother and you both came out stillborn.
Yeah.
And then you rose 3 days later.
Literally.
On a Sunday. You're Jesus.
That's astonishing though, in that you
Monday, but
had a body bag experience. I mean, that's really that if I were in a dream, that would be a call to lucidity because it's so out of the normal and wild. It's actually fantastical.
Well, it's something that stuck with me.
Yes.
Because it was a matter of I wasn't told all this until I was about 8. Because that's when I was diagnosed with grand mal epilepsy. And it was like, well, is there anything that could have caused this epilepsy? And that's when it all came out that, I was deprived of oxygen and I was stillborn and
a neurological thing.
And so and I have 4 forms of epilepsy. Let's see. I've had 2 heart attacks. I had those before I was 30.
Wow.
And that was due to the fact that I got double dosed for my epilepsy medication for like 2 days in a row. And that's when I was homeless.
Does epilepsy medication give you a speeded up cardiac experience?
In excess, it does.
Oh, okay.
In excess, because the medication was regulated by the shelter. I'm not going to say the name of it because I don't want to get sued. But but so they were like, "Well, no, take it." And I said, "Well, I've taken it already." Well, I have to watch you take it. You have to take it. Because when you're homeless, you're just treated like crap.
Yeah, I know. Sadly,
I used to get beat up by cops on a regular basis. So and so it's they made me double dose for like 2 or 3 days, and then I had my doctor now said it wasn't a full-on heart attack. She calls it a cardiac event.
Yes.
And then while I was in the hospital, I had one while I was like sitting there talking to the doctor. And they're like, the heart monitor just went crazy. And I'm like, what's going on? They're like, you're having a heart attack. And I'm like, what? Really? What?
Oh, wow. Were you having pain at that time with it? Or did
I didn't even know I was having a heart attack.
Why? That's what I hear. It's so creepy about heart attacks. Sometimes they just come on and then it's too late.
And that was that, and the funny thing is that wasn't even one of the times I died.
Yeah, you're walking the line. It gives you a particular edge. This is gonna be a great show.
Okay, I'm not sure. A
great show for us. How about that?
You've been dead so many times. That's awesome. What?
Well, just see, because you're walking the line. You're. I call death the constant companion anyway, and so just to be so close so many times and to have come in this way also. What was going on in your childhood? Were there shows you liked? Did you grow up in the woods or in a city?
I was born and raised in Oakland, California.
Okay.
I was one of like a handful of little white kids in the ghetto.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you could take the boy out of the hood, but you can't take the hood out of the boy.
I lived on Jackson Street in Oakland in the 80s. It was wild.
Oh my God, really?
Yes. And and I'm white, and it was quite an experience as a girl too, a young girl.
What? I'm really picky about my soul food. There's, and a lot of people are surprised. They're like, you eat collard greens and grits?
Oh,
and
yes.
I'm like,
oh, yes.
I'm like, if they're done right, yeah.
Yes, delicious. I love soul food.
And let's see. I was a big fan of Creature Features.
Yes.
And I actually got to meet the creator of Creature Features, which was awesome.
That's wonderful.
Was that a WGN production?
Creature Features? No, that was a channel called KTVU back in Oakland, and it was Bob Wilkinson, and he created Creature Features in the 70s.
I remember it was on GN. That's why I thought it was theirs. They must have syndicated.
Yeah, well, he actually because I own a documentary that they did on Creature Features, and he signed it. It was so awesome. Anyway, but he pretty much wrote and produced it himself. So, but that was my thing, is B movies and Creature Features, and I like to read.
Yes.
I pretty much read anything that was put in front of me. And that had a huge impact on my imagination, my penchant.
Were your reading habit, did you prefer sci-fi and horror in your reading habits as well?
In my reading habits, I didn't have any preference. If it was in print and you handed it to me, I would.
You'd read it. Oh, that's excellent. Nice. So, well, that rounds you out well.
But it led to, it elevated me as far as my education goes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I graduated high school at 16, and I graduated college at 20.
Oh, wow.
And so I tried out for Jeopardy, and I like, you got to go through 3 different rounds to be qualified for Jeopardy, and I got to the 3rd round and totally choked. It was horrible.
Your mother, Trebek.
Yeah. Oh, you got to do the Sean Connery laugh.
Oh my God.
Nice goat, Trebek.
Oh, yush.
I'm sorry, that is like the best skit on Saturday Night Live.
that one in the cork soakers. It takes a special skill to soak into corks. Just right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Where were we? What was I saying?
We were getting just your early background. Were you a dreamer when you were very young?
Off and on. I would go through like for a week solid, I would have tons and tons and tons of dreams, and then for like a week or two, I wouldn't have wouldn't be able to remember them. I mean, everyone dreams. It's just a matter of being able to. Right.
And that's when I asked that. That's actually what I mean. Were you having an active dream life where you have recall?
Well, one of the because I'm one of those people who has the reoccurring dreams, whether I want to or not.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my reoccurring dreams was I used to be a huge fan of the 1930s, 1940s horror films.
Oh, me too.
And one of the constant dreams that I had was that I was, with the Phantom of the Opera, and I would be reading a book, and he would come and stop me, and that's where the dream stops.
Oh, interesting.
And I had that.
So the dream would be going on, and it wouldn't necessarily have anything to do with the mythos around the Phantom of the Opera, but then he would show up and the dream would stop.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But did it stop in relation to how far you'd gotten through the book?
No.
Okay.
No.
Right, I thought you said that. No, never mind.
It would just be, whatever, as far as, I don't even remember.
He's a dick like that, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
How long did those, so that's a reoccurring dream. How long would you say that went on?
Those lasted maybe a year.
How old would you guess yourself to be?
probably about 5 or 6.
Okay, nice. That's very young. Excellent.
And for the longest time, I used to dream in black and white.
Oh.
And then when I hit about 8 or 9, they started to be, in a mixture of black and white and color. It was like Ted Turner was taking over my dreams and colorizing everything.
What, may I ask, what, if not your age, but what generation are you from?
I'm 43.
Okay.
So I'm Gen X.
Yeah, I'm Gen X too. Did you have early, besides watching old films, which would be the ones that are in black and white or in black and white, did you have a black and white TV at all very early on?
No. My grandmother had this Zenith that was like the size of a couch.
It was a piece of furniture. Yeah, I love those.
Like, yeah.
I love those.
And so, it was the one where, like, if you move, you become the antenna,
Yes.
And so that was,
so that's an interesting switch. Did you ever give any thought to why you may have gone from black and white to color dreams at a specific time?
No, I have no idea. It was just something that kind of, popped. It was because I was talking to my, neurologist, because for some reason, every May, my grand mal seizures go into overdrive. And she's like, well, did you have like a trauma in May or, when you were a kid, or did it? I'm like, no, there's,
right. Trying to land what could be behind it.
Yeah. So it's like, even when you think there could be a connection, there's truly no real connection.
Interesting.
Could be the tilt of the planet.
Well, a lot of people have suggested it had to do with the changing of the weather.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the first time I heard that. I've heard that from other epileptics, where they say, my seizures are focused in November, or, just whenever the changing of the.
So it's directly related to the distance we are from the sun.
Yeah, a lot of people have that. You go to, when you go to like certain epilepsy sites or, whatever, and they have the message boards and the forums that, it's amazing how many people's seizure cycles are like synced, like literally,
I wonder how you would do in a Faraday cage during those times.
What the hell is a Faraday cage?
Something that would block the electromagnetic effects of the sun.
Oh, okay.
So if it's, if it's electromagnetic effects that cause it come on strong, or if it's physical because of the distance or the orientation of the Earth versus the sun. I could see it being two different things, or maybe both,
Well, back in my day, they called those ISO tanks.
Yeah, but ISO tank won't stop the, if a lightning bolt hits an ISO tank, you're probably going to get fried.
Yeah, because of the metal and the water, yeah.
But you could put a mesh around it and make it a Faraday cage, and lightning could hit it and it would dissipate.
Right, gotcha.
It's interesting. I'm just wondering, like, if you lived in a high rise, would you have different types of seizures? Or...
I knew where you're going with that the minute you said if you lived in a high rise, because I've had people I've had people ask me that. I lived when I lived in Atlanta. In one of the places I lived on the what was it, ninth floor, and and it didn't change jack. So,
do you have an increase in dreams around May when you're having this increase in seizures?
No. Do
you have a decrease in dreams?
No.
So everything's normal except the seizures.
It's the more things change, the more they stay the same, sort of.
Right. Well, now that's normal because that's when you have more seizures.
Yeah, it's but I mean, it's one of the things that I constantly bring up in conversations, and people constantly get mad at me for it. It's you have to put it into your own perspective, to see it through the eyes of the person, or through the eyes of the genre or period or whatever, because for me, seizure, I don't know how to live without a seizure.
Right.
Whereas most people go, I don't know how you live with it. And I say, well, I don't know how I live without it.
Yeah. What's the context of your experience?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you had to switch from black and white to color dreams, and you said that was about
Ish. Yeah.
9-ish.
Yeah.
And then, so when you started having color dreams, so was anything changing within the dream landscape, or was it just the color switch? Was the sound or other tactile stuff switching?
It was just the color. That was pretty much the only thing that had changed. That, the context thereof was, pretty much the same. Um, as far as whether they were nightmares or whether they were nonsensical, et cetera, et cetera.
Were the colors at that time when they first started coming on, were they super saturated? What was the quality of the color experience?
Just regular,
Like this?
yeah,
Like
So
waking?
yeah, I mean, so I have no explanation for it, but that was, you know, the whole theme, so to speak, because
And
it bled into color, because it went from black and white to color and black and white, and then just to color.
interesting. I've never heard that. That's really great. I'm glad to be hearing new stuff always. Did you, and so just to circle back around to um, the seizures, when you're seizing, do you have, is there any recall of what's going on while you're seizing, or do you have any kind of experience?
Well,
What happens for you when
Well-
they happen?
Well, let me break it down real quick, because I have the grand mal seizures, tonic clonic. I don't remember jack shit. I don't.
So
remember.
those are just blackout.
But where I have my full on partials, there are times where I hallucinate. There are times where my personality changes. There are times where my wife will be the first one to tell you. There are times where I'll have them and I don't know who she is. And then there's other times that I have them that I revert to like a childlike personality. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, so it really depends on the intensity of the partial.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time with the partials, I'll have them and I'll remember bits and pieces. I won't remember the whole thing. So it is dreamlike in the sense that, you have that lingering, picture in your head.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, I know that XYZ happened, but for some reason I keep thinking about something, so.
Have you ever, through in any of these seizures, the partials, I guess, gone out of body and witnessed events non-locally?
Kind of, sort of. Every night when I go to bed, the whole I guess you could say trigger for me to go to bed is I have a partial. That's how that kind of lets me know, okay, my body's ready to sleep.
Oh, wow.
And so with those, out of body experiences have happened.
And what are those? Is there a generality with those, or are they all quite different?
I've never had an out of body experience that was the same.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all quite unique as far as, what the surroundings are, what the focal point is, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I guess I mean the quality of getting out of body. So besides the fact that they're related to this partial before you're going to bed, which also kind of sounds like it could tie into sleep paralysis, right?
No, it doesn't actually.
Okay.
A lot of epileptics who have full onset partials, they have that where they have it either before they go to bed or they have it when they wake up.
Man, you've just given me a new line of inquiry to go down. I'm actually I want to get more information on all this. I find this fascinating. So can we dive into these out of body experiences for a minute? Just a couple examples of maybe standout stuff that happened, what other beings you may have encountered, or Just a couple standout experiences.
Well, it's not like, there's like, beings and, that I could like say, oh yeah, I can identify this, I can identify that. But it's more like I'm just, I don't know, traveling, so to speak. I sent you a link through
I just
Zoom.
thanked you. Yeah, thank you.
But no, that's I'll tell you. I mean, not to go off topic, but that really cheeses me off. Like every time I turn around, they reclassify my seizures. So initially, I only had 2 different types of epilepsy, and if you're going like by the book, by today's standards, I have 5 different types, but only 4 are acknowledged. So figure that out.
Strange. Yeah, I'll never understand how all that gets parsed out. It just seems like it always just seems like there's some sort of funding advantage somewhere. But so can you give us just maybe a good example of an OBE experience you've had? Just a general one.
Well, when I was younger, the one that happened the most. Well, you lived in Oakland, so you actually might remember this. Lake Merritt.
Mm-hmm.
I used to always find myself just going to Lake Merritt.
Wait, is Lake Merritt by the?
You there?
Hello.
Oh, okay. What'd you say?
Is Lake Merritt? Is it by the zoo?
No, it's near downtown Oakland.
Okay, yeah, it's been a long. I told you the years. It's been a very long time. I remember Lake Merritt. We'd go around it.
And so as a child, that if and when I did have one, that's where I usually ended up.
Oh, that's interesting. And did it look different, OBE?
It looked more clear than it did when you were actually physically there. It looked more not as murky, I should say.
Yeah. And would you, while you were OBE, would you be just experiencing general life going on around it, people doing what they're doing? And
no, it was always at night. There was never anyone there.
Okay. Oh, interesting. That's interesting. And so when you would come, so when you're out OBE, when you come, which was these OBEs were sparked by a partial seizure before you go to sleep. When you would end up back in your body, was there ever a trigger how that happened? Were you in control of it?
As far as
getting back into your body and back.
Oh, no, it was just it was just like going for a walk. It's like I'd go to sleep, go to Lake Merritt, and come back, and that was it. It was I mean, because you're a kid, you don't realize that these things are not necessarily basic,
right? Common.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's so spectacular about this is that this was your normal, and so you didn't have that whole idea of shutting it off, that this is strange or an anomaly of any type. And it sounds like you had no fear with it.
Well, and going back to my NDEs, it's I don't. There's not a lot of things I'm afraid of, and I'm not trying to sound macho, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm not afraid of anything. It's not that. It's just when you're an adult and you have a near-death experience, that kind of it makes all the other fears go away because you're like, wow, there's absolutely nothing to be afraid of. There is nothing anyone can do to me that could make things different. So, I mean, that had a lot of influence, I should say.
Did you talk about these OBEs with people, your parents or your friends? At the time?
I didn't really think anything of them.
So because they were that normal to you that it was just not even really worth mentioning.
Right. It's like one of the, you're not gonna be like, you know what, I tied my shoe today.
Right.
and so I didn't really, because I thought everybody did it.
Yeah.
So what's the point of bringing it up?
It's really wonderful. It's quite unique. Okay, so have you so kind of in this idea of altered states, did you ever experiment with psychotropics as a means of messing with altered realities and altered states and all that?
No, because with epilepsy, you want to stay clear of all of that.
Yeah, I figured.
A lot of epileptics, swear up and down by marijuana usage. But there's a handful of us that it just makes us have more seizures. So, so it doesn't work as well with me. So, because I tried it and it did not have good. It was not happy.
Yeah. And that's a good reason not to go further.
But in the same breath, there's a lot of painkillers I can't, take. And, one of the goofiest things about the medication I'm on, it's called Tegretol, and it's an anticonvulsant, is you're not allowed to eat grapefruit.
That's strange. What's the reasoning there?
I have no bloody idea.
Grapefruit has weird enzymes.
Grapefruit or grapefruit juice.
And so, yeah, the enzyme thing does kind of make sense, Jer. It could mess with something.
It's just weird. That's all. It's just weird.
What do you take with the UTI? Cranberry juice.
Yeah.
You can drink that, right?
Oh, yeah. Any kind of, everything but grapefruit juice. Yeah.
Sweet.
But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Nish. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I didn't feel cut off. Are you RH negative by chance?
RH negative?
Yeah, blood. It's I'm taking it. You don't know. It's just a blood type. There's I guess there's a lot of anomalous stuff with RH negative people.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. No, I'm O positive.
Okay. That's the universal recipient.
Yeah.
Were one of your parents RH negative?
Not to my knowledge, no. Yeah, I can't think anyone in my family who had, because I'm pretty much the only medical oddity in my family, and see, and Adam knows he's the only one who can get away with calling me Gordy. So, but
did he call you Gordy?
Yeah, in the chat.
Oh, I don't look at the chat. I when we're going.
And it's only 1D. Thank you.
Oh.
But well, no, I had gone to parochial school, and it was funny because I got kicked out for having epilepsy. And
really, they were able to kick you out for having epilepsy.
Well, keep in mind this is the early 80s. There wasn't any protocol legally for a lot of people who were differently abled, and so they could do that.
Jeez.
I've actually it's one of my points of pride that one of the head sisters called me an abomination.
Oh my God. That's terrible.
That's awesome. What are you talking about?
I think it's, well, of course, no, I would also own it that way too, but it's still in the greater context of it all, it's, it's so old school.
Well, a friend of mine, had made me a meme, and I've seen it since, which is, I don't know. I think he ripped it off, but it said, something to the effect of, is holy water supposed to boil when you're next to it? And then in parentheses, it says, I'm asking for a friend.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And this is no joke. My neighbor, Orion, he has a bottle labeled holy water that he keeps in his car. And he says he keeps it there for when I act up.
Oh, wow.
So,
dude. Okay, so
I think you have to re-bless that every so often.
Yeah, you got to recharge.
Yeah,
recharge
even
your water.
The moonlight, that'll help.
Well,
not.
your mortal weapons don't affect me.
You haven't met my pointy wooden spike yet.
D&D game now. Wait, are you? So, Gordon, do you do the Monday night D&D with these guys?
No. I actually have a life. No, I'm kidding.
I almost spit my tea everywhere. Jesus,
is not a.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
It's not untrue.
I had to get that D&D dig in. I'm sorry, I had to.
Oh Lord.
We don't play D&D now. We're playing Call of Cthulhu.
Me. I don't know. I'm kidding. You know, I've never really been into those kind of games. So I'm really into chess. I'm really into riddles, puzzles.
Yeah, I like all that stuff too. I think that those role-playing games seem fun, or whatever you call those. I'm not sure.
Role-playing games. I would think that being an imaginative, creative author, as you are, you would actually enjoy the experience.
See, now he's baiting.
No, I'm not. I'm not. People don't understand what the game's about. A lot of people don't understand. And
you're good friends with Adam Tarsis, right? And he's the master, dungeon master.
Yeah,
the master's fine.
Adam and I are thick as thieves.
There's the dog.
And no, I had friends who played it in high school, and just couldn't get. I just never could get into it. Whereas when it comes to you put up a good chess game, or if you're able to present me a good riddle, then
yeah, you can find an opponent anywhere.
Yeah, well, I mean,
D&D, you're gonna have to crawl in somebody's basement.
Well,
I get it.
For D&D, it's more of a matter of you have to have an X amount of people, and and for me, I've never really truly been a social butterfly. With epilepsy and stuff, you get treated a whole hell of a lot different, and so it's a matter of, for a while, I didn't have any friends, and I constantly got picked on, and so I had to find things that I could do that were, on a solitary basis. I didn't need anybody but me, and that's how it went down.
What was so okay, let's move into kind of dream territory on into this segment, and I'm the reason I'm saying that is, and one of the reasons I actually, even though it was a joke in a way, asked about the D&D too, is because I can see how that would permeate through into the dream landscape, and you would get some of that imagery and all that. But then also you like horror and sci-fi and all that. So I'm expecting some of that. But what is the general, nowadays, your general dream landscape, what does that consist of? So we know color, and so I'm wondering about like your experience of sound and tactile stuff, touch, extrasensory stuff we consider in waking life extrasensory. Can you mind read there? All that.
So can I mind read? Is that what you just asked me?
Right. Do you have some extrasensory abilities in them? Because some people, their dream life really is almost identical to their waking life. Really?
Well, it's okay. Let me answer that in section. As far as the extrasensory perceptions and so on and so forth, I don't care what anybody says. When you have a near-death experience, you bring something with you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And whether I can or cannot, I'm not going to comment on, because that is, something I truly don't, talk about. What my dream landscape is like now, I constantly have nightmares. I constantly, I wake up screaming a lot. I wake up in cold sweats a lot. but a lot of that's due to, you know, when I was homeless, and, you know,
And the PTSD.
and yeah, because when I was home, I mean, we were, you know, as homeless people, you know, people say, oh, well, you know, get a job and whatever. It's like, yeah, great, I got a job and I have money, and then the cops come and they beat the crap out of you and they take your money, or
Yeah.
you know, um, I could, you know, I could tell tons of stories where, you know, at the shelter they would like take your clothes and they'd hold them hostage. Well, you want your clothes back, you got to give me $5, you know, things of that nature. So it's, you know,
So that stuff is constantly kind of haunting you through your dreams as a way of that stuff's still haunting you through your dreams, and you're having these visceral experiences.
most definitely, yeah.
Did it just creep up? How long have you not been homeless?
9 years.
And so was there ever a lull in that, or has it resurfaced, or has it been this way all along?
It's been this way all along. You know, for the longest, you know, because I'm an alcoholic. You know, I don't use the term recovering alcoholic because that makes it seem like, you know, there's a cure for it, and there's no, you know, but I haven't had a drink in over 8 years.
Oh, congratulations! That's a feat.
Well, it was something that was necessary.
Yeah.
So
you got after you got settled somehow and were not homeless, a year later you got on the wagon.
Well, it was a matter of it. No one in my family is still alive. Everyone's dead, literally.
Okay.
My father died 3 months before my mother did. My grandfather, you know, both my grandfathers, both my grandmothers, you know, there's my sister, you know, and I found that it was a matter of, you know, because in almost every case, I was the executor of the will, like literally. And the best way for me to cope with it was at the bottom of the bottle. And that's, you know, part and parcel to what made me homeless. And
so these deaths, the succession of death with your family actually was how you ended up there.
Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering. I didn't want to pry, and
let me state, not to cut you off, but there, you know, ask me anything. I mean, there are very few things that I don't talk about.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm a very open person. You can ask Adam. You know, from the conversations I've had with Jerry, I'm sure he knows that I'm a very open person. You know, so
definitely.
Just go ahead and ask. It's, you know, and if I don't want to answer it, I'll tell you I don't want to answer.
Yes, and I appreciate that. I'm that way too. Throw it at me, and if I don't feel comfortable, I'll say it.
Exactly.
So you had this series of traumas, not to mention going through seizures and all this that led to your homelessness.
Yeah.
Which then brings us into you having some sort of, did you have a catharsis? What brought you out of homelessness?
Well, this was in Georgia. I was homeless. I lived in the South for the better part of 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, carpenter by trade. I mean, when I say by trade, I mean, I was, you know, trained in it. My degree is in ancient history, and there's not a lot of call for jobs with ancient history, you know, background.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd go to construction sites and do my job and get paid, and that was it, you know. But you know, and so, you know, I still continued to do that while I was homeless, but it, you know, you can't save any money when you're getting robbed by the cops twice a week, you know.
Right. I know that doesn't get covered enough. I've heard it from other people too. I don't want to go down the avenue because I will start ranting, and I'm sure I could I would just derail this whole conversation. But yeah, it's terrible, and people don't understand that kind of thing happens.
But it wasn't necessarily a catharsis. It was a matter of there was a job listing for this woman in Denver who needed someone to take care of her in her final stages of cancer. She needed someone to run errands for, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And I responded to it, sarcastically, because I said, well, it's too bad I'm in Georgia. And she said, I will pay for you to get out here.
Oh, okay. That's a lifeline.
And that's from Georgia to Colorado.
Yeah.
And so I moved to Denver, and I'd been working for about a month or so, and I was on a dating site. I know that sounds cheesy, but
well, you're living your life.
Well, but and so I went out with this girl, and she said, "Look, she's like, I want to go out with you, but at the same time, my son has, her 13-year-old son. Well, at the time he wasn't 13. A birthday party to go to at Chuck E. Cheese." And I said, "So let's take a date at Chuck E. Cheese." And so our first date was at Chuck E. Cheese. And
have fun.
And so
yeah, really,
and we got along, and we got on well. And she gave me a ride back to Denver. And from Denver to Colorado Springs, it's about 2 hours, just to give you a context.
Yeah. Yeah.
And on the way back, she had a car accident. And her car was completely totaled. Her son broke his arm, and she didn't have a scratch or a bruise on her. And she said she took that as a sign from the universe to be with me.
Oh, that's interesting.
And the woman that I was working for, she's like, "Well, move in with her." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" Yeah, she said, "No, move in." I said, "But I'm working for you." She goes, "Well, fine, you're fired."
Oh, wow.
And I mean, she wasn't.
How long had you been working for this lady, whatever her name is?
About 3 months, maybe 4.
Okay.
And I lived in the basement, and but she wasn't mean about it. She was just like, "Look, if the only way I can get you to be with her is, so."
Oh yeah, I think it's quite sweet that she did that.
It gets a little bit deeper than that, because I moved in with Kimmy, and a week later I found out the woman passed away.
Wow.
And so
it was the timing of that. Wow.
So it was kind of like, that's when I agreed with Kimmy. I'm like, maybe it was the universe talking, and we've been married for almost 9 years.
Congratulations. That's really a great story. I love that. Well, it's heartwarming, especially around, or I guess in the center of really dramatic stuff in your life. And a lot of stuff, people on the outside would say this is a lot of hard knocks. And so here's this great love story here in the middle.
Well, I mean, she keeps me grounded to, and Adam can tell you, she keeps me in check. I mean, I have an IQ of 162. And so I'm, can be quite arrogant.
Yes.
And my wife will just be like, "Put the brakes on it, honey." And I'm like, "Yes, ma'am."
Did you, so I want to talk about the lady that passed for a second. Did you, when she passed, did you have any experiences with her in dreams? Did she show up, anything?
No.
Okay. So, and on that note, your other, people that you've known, and obviously that's your family, that you mentioned earlier that had passed, had they ever shown up in your dream landscape?
Anyone who's passed?
Yeah.
Well, In what context do you mean? Like
just any context in your dreams, have they shown up?
Oh yeah, I mean, I dream about my parents all the time, and so yeah, I mean, I obviously haven't forgotten them. They were they and my grandfather were ginormous influences on me. My grandfather gave me the best advice one could ever give to a child. And he said, Gordon, because he refused to call me Gordy. Most only family calls me Gordy, and
Adam.
And
well,
Adam.
Who's family at this point? I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to be calling you Gordy from now on.
You've crossed a barrier with Jerry. Watch out.
But it's a matter of he said, Gordon, I have one thing to ask of you, and that's to be a better man than I was.
Oh.
And I thought the world of my grandfather. So it's a matter of wow, how can I be better than you? And after he passed, it made sense to me, because it was like, as awesome as I think that he is and or was, I'm the challenge he gave me wasn't to outdo him, but to add to it.
Yes.
And I intend on telling the same thing to my son. I intend on telling him to be a better man than I. And so
I love that as a just in a matter of lineage.
Well, I think it's an excellent idiom to pass down.
Yes, I agree.
Because it's not saying, look, why don't you go ahead into the world and outdo me? It's saying, take what I've taught you and add to it to teach, your son, and so on. So, I mean, and that's what I tried to do. I try to, I try to be better, and I try to, take what he taught me and pass it on to others, and
And so he shows up in your dreams from time to time?
He's the only one I've never dreamed about.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So for example, when your parents show up, what do you have an example for us of just any dream where they may have shown up?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, for the most part, the dreams they show up in are and it's kind of like they only have a cameo, so to speak. I don't interact with them.
Do you get emotional when you see them?
No. It's it's like they're in the here and now. So it's
right. So it's not even like they passed. It's just like a continuation.
Exactly. Yeah.
I really enjoy hearing that, and that's one of the continuities that it's a thread that I hear constantly, is that aspect of with people who've passed in the dream landscape. It's usually a continuation, and it's not like there's a sense that they didn't die, because there they are.
Yeah. That's the kind of vibe that it is.
When okay, so here we are back in the modern day with you, and a lot of PTSD dreams. Do you have a couple examples of how they play out? Like maybe more of an extreme example?
It's just reliving the beatings. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much all it is. I mean, there's nothing really aside from that. It's just,
do you not have control in these? Is that part of the fear?
Well, I didn't have control then,
right? But I'm talking now in context to the dream. If there's been any, you've been able to gather a little through that state of
well, it's more like it's not necessarily a dream as much as it is reliving things.
Okay, it's like flashbacks almost.
Yeah.
So the experiences are really pretty much flashbacks. They're the actual experiences. You're just reliving them through the dream landscape.
Exactly.
So they're not morphing. Okay, so aside from those dreams that are that seem to plague you, and of course, that's what PTSD does. It's a very, trauma is trauma, and it's deep seated. What other kinds of dreams do you have? So give us more, I guess, give us some dreams that aren't around your PTSD.
Wow. Well, let's. I'm trying to think of a good example, and it's really hard to. I mean, I have, aside from my PTSD dreams, the dreams that I have are me doing mundane things, like I was doing the dishes, and I had to answer the door or something, just there are things that haven't happened, but they're it's odd. I get a lot of ideas for my books and my stories in my dreams.
I was wondering that. I also pull a lot of artistic inspiration from mine, and so I was wondering how much content actually does kind of come through your dream world.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Like the book I wrote about Abraham Lincoln and John Wilkes Booth. That idea came from a dream.
Can you give us that dream?
Well, the dream was I was sitting at a table drinking coffee with some man I didn't know, and he kept going, John Wilkes Booth, he was framed, and that's all he would say. And then he got up and he walked out of the cafe, and I woke up, and I try to keep my therapist likes me to keep a dream diary.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And for me, for the most part, I can remember the feeling. I can't remember the actual dream. I don't know if that makes sense.
It totally does.
But and so I wrote it down, and it had been bothering me that week. So I went and I looked up some stuff, and I found that there was a theory that says that John Wilkes Booth didn't die in the barn as reported. And so I delved deeper into that, and I'm like, I've got to write about this. And so I did.
So I find that fascinating. And
had you recently seen National Treasure?
Oh God, that piece of crap with
Nick Cage.
Nick Cage, yeah. I always want to say Noah Wyle, because he did a movie called National Treasure. Like the librarian.
Like, Solomon's Temple, or the librarian. Library of Solomon.
Oh yes.
He'll always be an ER doctor to me. A bad one at that.
I love your laugh, Gordon.
But thank you. You
do have a good laugh.
But that was the plot of National Treasure 2, that John Wilkes Booth was innocent.
That's my least maniacal laugh.
That's great.
No, my wife tells me I laugh like the Joker on steroids.
Oh my! I would enjoy that too.
And I'm sure Adam can tell you, because he'll be like, "Oh my God, you sound so evil just then." I love it. But no, it wasn't from that. No, it was just I was in some cafe that I didn't recognize, and I was talking to a man I didn't recognize, and John Wilkes Booth was framed, and that's all he said to me, and he said it like 2 or 3 times, and I wrote about it, and I wrote about the actual dream, and then I looked into it, and then I wrote the book.
So this actually, this is a big interest for us. How much? So we talk about downloads in dreams and getting information in dreams and bringing it forth. And you've just said that this is definitely one of your creative wells. Have you had anything come through that felt prophetic in a way that maybe you could see then play out in the landscape of waking life? Even personal stuff doesn't have to be big, gigantic world stuff.
Well, I've had I've had premonition in dream, and I've had that quite a lot. But one of my friends, she's really big into the whole paranormal and all that kind of thing. And she's like, "It's because you've been dead." And I'm like, "What?" She goes, dream,
Yes.
dream. Well, and it's not a new theory. I mean, because the Romans and the Egyptians used to think that dreams were the ways that gods communicated with you.
Right.
And if you put if you well, they're nonsensical dreams. Well, the gods are testing you. They're testing your knowledge. They're testing your and her thing was, well, you've been dead, and the dream world is the closest you can come to death without dying, and blah 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 blah. And so
do you have an example of some of those of a premonition that played? It's like the dream and then how it played out in waking life.
Let's see. Well, I dreamt about my father's death, and then he died a month later.
Oh, wow. Okay. Do you mind sharing that dream?
No, to be honest, I don't remember that much about it. It was all I remember from the dream was the phone ringing, me answering it, and my stepmother saying, "Gordy, your dad died." That that's pretty much the dream, and that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah.
The only difference was in the dream I was at home, but when it actually happened, I was at work. So
That's a good. I've had that experience as well, and it's interesting. Do you think in that experience? Do you think it was okay? My question, I guess, here is: do you think it was your father with the communication, or was it just the fact that there was a ripple in your universe at that time, and now he has passed, and you picked it up through dream?
well, I see.
How do you think that played out?
For me, I'm first and foremost, I mean, everybody, joke, and even Adam will joke about, me being a Vulcan because I rely so much on logic. I believe in the multiverse theory.
Yes.
And so with some dreams, I believe that they are just a peek into an alternate Earth. So with premonition dreams, I think they happen just in a different timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're just getting a peek into that timeline, and people chalk it up to a premonition or a psychic vision, et cetera, et cetera.
So, in an alternate timeline, your father had died, and you got the call, and you tapped into that, and then it coincided with this timeline.
Well, I mean, I think events, it's like a mirror event. And so, like I said, in the dream, I was at home.
Yeah, right.
And so who's to say that in an alternate Earth, I, wasn't at home and got that call, but I got it sooner than I did in this timeline. So it was more like not necessarily a premonition, but it was a matter of a peek into alternate timeline.
Do you? So on this, okay. So what are your thoughts on in waking life? Here and now, you as you are here and now, and so with all this, and we have touched on it, but I guess I want to dive further into it just for a second before we move into some of the. I want to hear about the other two times you died. So ESP in this life, in your experience, do you experience it? How do you experience it?
How do I experience?
Do you experience ESP in waking life?
Again, that's kind of something I'm kind of personal about. as far as the whole ESP thing goes.
Uh-huh.
But you know, I have, you know, I have had like those kind of things, you know, in my life where it's, you know, like the best example that I give is, you know, my grandmother's funeral, which was my mother, you know, at a classic Catholic funeral, it's a matter of, as the family member, you thank everyone for coming and da 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 da. And my mother had forgotten her purse behind the pulpit, you know, and my dad went to go get it. And, you hear my dad, scream bloody murder. And mom runs in. She's like, what the hell? And he's like, that bitch punched me.
What?
And my mom's like, what? And so they go into the restroom and he pulls his pants down and he's got a bruise from his knee to his hip, like forming. Like my mother would tell the story. She said, you could see the bruise forming.
And who punched him?
My dead grandmother.
Holy crap, that's wild. So what did he okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Continue with this. I want to hear more of it.
I was just going to say, because she hated his guts. So, she said the only thing he ever did right was me.
Oh, wow. That's chilling. That is a great story.
And I got one that'll make you like get goosebumps.
Bring it on.
My son is 7 years old. My father died in 1999.
Oh, that's when my mama died.
And I was going through some pictures on the computer, and backing up my files and stuff. And I come across a picture of my dad, and my son goes, "Grandpa!"
Oh.
And my wife looked at me and like all the color from her face like drained. And I'm like, yep, welcome to the family.
Okay, so wait. When was your son born?
My son was born in 2010.
And had he ever seen he had never seen photos of his grandfather?
No.
Wow, that's really great. So when he did that, did you ask questions, or was there any kind of anything around that besides the idea that this is bizarre and fabulous?
Well, we talked about it, and it was like, well, where do you, how do you know that's grandpa? And he goes, he sings.
Oh.
and my father loved to sing and play guitar. He used to, one of his favorite songs to play was Stairway to Heaven. Because he used to play that, and he used to play the Immigrant Song. I don't know if you're familiar with that from Led Zeppelin.
I know I am.
I am.
I love Led Zeppelin. It's just weird I don't know that by name.
And the funny thing about that song is it was in one of the Thor movies. And so we're watching the Thor movie, and my son is singing along word for word.
Wow.
And I mentioned that to Kimmy, and she was just like, yeah, tell your dad to not come around when I'm around. So
this is actually a good moment to ask you about reincarnation. What do you think about that?
I definitely think it's possible. I mean, never say never.
Well, beyond that seems like a safe answer. I mean, do you have any more skin in the game on that, or is it just you're just open to it?
I'm open to it. I mean, I haven't necessarily, everyone's seen those videos on YouTube where they're like, this kid's describing how life was in 1930 or, whatever.
And he's got a scar on his head where he was killed with an ice pick, right?
Right. Yeah. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like those kind of things, you could chalk it up to, coercion. You could chalk it up to coincidence. You know, I mean, again, I'm very logic based. So, I mean, like the whole thing with my son, and the experience, him describing my dad, there is no way he could have known, you know,
all that, the music
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, it's astonishing. It was a fantastic story.
And so with that gives me that, there's the cohesion there.
Yes.
Whereas with these kids going, oh yeah, well, I was alive and da da da, well, they could have heard a story on television. They could have, heard,
been front loaded.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, but the force seems to be very strong with my young one. So
indeed, indeed. So, what sign is your young one?
Midichlorians are high.
What sign are you, Gordy? Oh, geez, I just called you Gordy. Oh no, Gordon, I'm sorry.
That's I'll make you pay later.
I know.
Like
oh
you,
Lord,
I'll kill you last.
Oh man, did you just quote Commando? Seriously?
No, it's a pin I've had for years.
Oh, that's Arnold Schwarzenegger's line in the movie Commando.
It was a clown pin in the 70s that I've always had.
Jerry.
It's this creepy clown that says, "I like you, I'll kill you last."
But
I love that.
My sign is caution.
Thrown to the wind.
Oh, that might be one of the best answers.
Well, that's okay. Adam's sign is slow children crossing.
Jeez.
No, I'm a Virgo.
Okay, and your son?
He's in October. I don't know what the hell that is. So
could be Scorpio. Could be something.
Or
else.
Libra. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, his due date was 10/10/10. That was his due date, and he was born on the 9th. So,
damn alien interference.
I know.
Oh, wow. So they almost got his due date exactly right.
I was so pissed. I'm like, couldn't you have waited a day? We could have been on the news.
But it's still remarkable to get it that perfect.
No, it was, well, I mean, and it's funny because my wife was in the delivery room for a whole 7 minutes.
And then he came out. She was in the delivery room for 7 minutes.
They did not get the IV in her before Caleb was born.
Oh wow, he was ready to come out.
Yeah, he was ready. So, but it was a matter of I'm all my friends tease me that I'm a helicopter dad because I'm very involved with my son and I'm very attached to my son. And while he was in the nursery, I was visiting, and this was at like 3 a.m, because I stayed at the hospital. And then there's like a gaggle of nurses. They're like, "Did you hear about that bitch who was in labor for like 5 minutes?" And da 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 da. And I interrupted. I said, "That was my wife." They're like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "Look, if I was a woman, I'd probably be pissed too."
Right. I mean, so that's like a champ right there.
Well, yeah. I mean, but that's my wife. I mean, she,
and that's your wife, but also that's your son. It's like, I think it's a kind of a team effort.
Oh yeah, he couldn't wait to get out. I don't think. I think he was, because he kicked a lot, and he constantly, as my wife called it, rearranged himself. He could never get comfortable. So it was like he was just ready,
I'm sure there are people thinking, maybe not listening now, but perhaps later, that, I can hear that, possibly this was your twin brother, and part of, there's a lot of really interesting threads that could be woven into this that are, because there's this tie into your father and this foreknowledge and all this stuff. It's very juicy. Well, I want to move ahead actually to your other death stories. I definitely want to get those in.
Okay. Well, I was in a club, and this is in the early 90s. So, and the there's this guy, like, at the bar yelling at his wife or girlfriend or whatever she was, and he just cold cocks her and she falls down.
Oh, geez.
And where I come from, if you hit a woman, you're going to get hit back, but just 5 times as hard, you know? And so I went up to him and I'm like, what's your problem? Da, 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 da. And, he, took a swing at me and he missed. And so I go to hit him, and I don't know if it was his friend or one of her friends or whatever, comes up behind me and stabs me in the stomach with a Bowie knife.
Oh my God, that's terrible. Oh, and I have a queasy reaction to stabbings.
But now he's holy.
I didn't know I was stabbed. I thought he just punched me really hard. And so on my right hand, there's a series of scars. And those series of scars are his nose, both of his, no, I'm not kidding, his nose, both of his cheekbones, and 9 of his teeth.
Oh, wow.
And
this was after he stabbed you.
And according to what happened, I'd passed out, and the ambulance came, and I was pronounced dead in the emergency room. And like not even a minute later, after they pronounced me dead, I came back up. I mean, so.
Do you in this period of when you passed out and all that, did you have any kind of experience, or was it just all blackness?
It was, for me, it was a blackness with, there's no other way to put it, but it was like a loud humming sound, like the Gregorian chants, like that.
Yeah,
it was like that.
What's interesting about that is I've heard a lot of that with getting OBEs.
I was just going to ask that.
It's very, very common.
It's I think the way people have been describing it, it seems like that vibration shakes you out of your body.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was all I heard, and then the next thing I know, I was, I remember the fluorescent lights. That's the first thing I remember after that. Because I remember beating the crap out of this guy, which is a point of pride for me, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, Oakland boys in the building.
Right. Right.
I gotta represent.
You sure? And you did.
Yeah. Look, Thug Life didn't choose. I didn't choose the Thug Life. The Thug Life chose me.
Hey, Oakland was hard. It's not like it is now.
Well, no. The first, like, my 8th grade and 9th grade year, we were like the #1 murder capital in the United States.
Oh, I remember when I lived there, my mama was tripping out. She could not believe that I was down there in the thick of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was, because people go, oh, Oakland, but it's so funny out here in Colorado, there are more Oakland Raiders fans here in the Springs than there are back in Oakland. It's so funny. But I remember beating them up. And then I remember the blackness with the humming.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember fluorescent lights. And that's...
So in this, on this one, because so in the recovery period and since then, have you had any dream content that has had tied to that experience?
No, not really. No.
So it just happened, and that's what happened, and you moved on.
Yeah, pretty much. And to address what Diane said, my wife said the thickness too. So anyway,
I don't know what Diane said because I'm not watching the chat. So
you really don't want to know.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yeah.
So
I love her.
It's the girth. Yes.
It's the girth. Yeah. My wife is because she's like, my God, it's like a Guinness can, and I'm like, yeah, I know.
Oh, the oil can.
No,
Ooh-wee.
Guinness, not oil.
Yeah.
Guinness.
No,
yeah.
but I think of Guinness cans as a like Foster can also. But I guess Foster cans are bigger than are wider than.
They're a lot harder. They would hurt.
Australian for a swill. Anyway.
Okay, so and your second death experience, or third, it would be your third at this point.
Yeah, I was shot.
Jeez, Gordon.
Got shot. It's so funny. I grew up in Oakland, and I never got stabbed, never got shot. But I moved to Atlanta, and I get stabbed and shot. So
what's the story with this one?
I for a while I worked at Starbucks, and I worked the mid shift to closing. So I show up around 5 or 6, and then we would close at 10. And I go home.
Okay, wait. What period of time is this, first of all?
This is the late 90s.
Okay, so still before your father passed.
This was 2 or 3 years before he passed. So it was 96, 97. I
was living in I have family there. I was living in Merida at that point. Anyway.
But there was a liquor store maybe 3 blocks from my house. And, I would go there and get cigarettes. And it was run by this little Korean guy. And, he had like the big, the bulletproof, what you call it? The glass. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I had to go get cigarettes. And there's this woman ahead of me. And mind you, this is like 11:30-ish at night,
What part of Atlanta is this?
This is going toward downtown Atlanta.
Okay.
Like Buckhead or Roswell?
That doesn't sound like Buckhead at all.
No.
Buckhead's all trendy and yeah.
They used to shoot each other up around there.
No,
not for a long time, Jerry. Not in '97.
This is I wasn't here. Going toward downtown, the complete opposite area of Buckhead.
Yeah. Buckhead was trendy in the 70s and the 90s.
In the 70s.
And listen to me. Well, my family was there in the 70s too, and was way different. 5 Points was different. But this is another story.
It's all rainbows and unicorns now.
Sunshine and lollipops and. Okay, sorry.
Let's do some show tunes. Okay, back to the bulletproof glass.
But this woman, mind you, it's like, it's past 11. This woman's ahead of me, and she's got, her 2 kids with her. And these kids were maybe 7, 8, 9-ish esque. And, for some reason, she's buying lottery tickets. And I'm like, I remember standing in line thinking, you picked a hell of a time to buy lottery tickets. I just want to get my cigarettes and go home. And it was a matter of, she gets her cigarettes, and this guy comes in, and he's obviously strung out on something. And he pulls a gun out on the guy, he's like, give me all your money. And the guy's like, he knocks on the glass. He goes, bulletproof,
Yeah.
And so he aims the gun at the kids.
Oh, jeez.
And so I jump on top of these kids, and I get 2 38s in the back.
Oh, my God.
And that's all I remember. And the next thing I know, I woke up in the hospital, and I've got, like, flowers and, cards. Like one of the fire departments had signed a thank you card or a get well card for me.
How long had you been out?
When I woke up, they told me I'd been out for 2 days.
And so in this experience, you don't have any, that's also a blackout experience?
For me, it was it wasn't necessarily a blackout experience, but it was like I was in a constant dream.
Oh, can you describe that? Like what was maybe stuff that was going on for you?
It was like I woke up and I went to work and I came home and it was like me living my life, like,
So your waking life was going on, and yet your body is in ICU somewhere.
Yeah, well, when I woke up, I wasn't in ICU anymore.
But when you're passed out in the period, in this like recovery, at least when you in your blackout, what would be your unconscious body? you're actually, though, in this other state of consciousness, whatever that is, that liminal state, just going about your normal life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you didn't think anything was going on, and you had no clue that it was a dream experience or whatever.
I had, well, when I woke up, I'm like, what the hell? And, it was explained to me that, I had been declared dead, and, because from, and I should have mentioned this. I'm sorry. I'll come back to this, but let me mention this real quick. Because Nish will appreciate this. I have my birth certificate and my death certificate from when I was born. And I
hope they're framed, by the way. That's just so great.
You don't pay taxes.
You know what? I tried to get that. I tried to get, I'm like, well, I'm dead, so I can't be there.
Right. I already paid my dues.
But because my birth certificate is dated after my certificate of death.
Oh, yeah.
Then, it cancels it out. But it's still awesome to have your own death certificate.
No, it's seriously very cool in a creepy way. And of course I love the creepy stuff. So,
well, people are like, is that a joke? And I'm like, yeah, I wish. It's like, no, it's my real death certificate.
No, that's a true oddity for people who like, this is a living experience of true modern oddity. So you wake up and they fill you in on what's happening. At this point, did you wonder about the fact that you were just living your normal life, like you didn't have this experience?
Okay, do you what now? I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'm trying to get back on track here. So you were kind of in a dream state, going about your normal life, but then you wake up in the hospital and they fill you in on what had gone on. Did you question?
Yeah, because I thought the way that I interpreted it when I woke up was I thought me getting shot was a dream. And,
So you thought you getting shot was the dream. Oh, man, this is juicy.
And the nurse who was, he was this nice little gay guy, he's like, oh, honey, wait till I tell you what's happened. And, they caught the guy. I mean, the guy got prosecuted and everything. And the kids ended up being safe.
Oh, good.
I'm to this day, and I'd gotten get well cards from like the fire department and, from the guy who owned the shop, and he gave me a couple of cartons of cigarettes for free, which I thought was really cool. And I'd gotten get well card from, a couple of the police officers, but I never got any kind of recognition from the mother. And that always pissed me off.
That's so strange. You saved her kids.
I don't know why it gets under my skin so much, but to this day it still does,
Well, I can understand. I'm going to pull up to that with you. I mean, it's actually quite rude. You literally took bullets for her kids.
But, I don't regret it, but still it's kind of like, but yeah, so, they told, he told me everything that happened, and I was just in shock, and it took me another week in the hospital, and then they let me out. But, I've got these, I've got two nice scars where I was tattooed on the back, and I've got a scar on my stomach, from where I was stabbed, and,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
My father gave me a great catchphrase. I didn't get these scars and tattoos from going to Sunday school.
I like your father.
Oh, Dad was something. Dad was something. He definitely a character.
I wanted to tell you, Gordon, next time you die, when you wake up, you should go, did I die again? Damn it.
Come on,
that'd be really funny.
Every time I die, I hope it's the next leap home.
Oh my God, you guys. Did you have, so around the third death, did you have any dream content that is worth talking about here that was significant in the hospital or afterwards, tied into that experience of dying yet again?
See, I'm gonna tell you, but everyone's gonna think I'm batshit crazy.
We're there though.
Too late.
But yeah, Jerry, screw you and everybody who looks like you. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Let's see, about maybe a year or so after my mom died.
When was that, by the way? What year?
She died in 2000. You there?
Oh, and okay. It's so funny. Every time I hear 2000, I expect to hear a number.
Oh,
like 2005. It's always that way. But boom, boom. Where's the drum? So
no.
Yeah, that's right.
No,
you had said earlier that they died so close together.
Yeah, and so it was a matter of maybe 2002, 2003 ish.
Mm-hmm.
I had a dream where I met Zeus,
mm-hmm.
and he put his hands on my shoulders, and and he was like, "Everything's fine. They're fine. It's not your time yet. Now go home." And I woke up. And that's the only super creepy thing,
I know Jerry has something to say about this.
I'm just going to say, you just told this story at 22:33 on 4/4.
Oh, jeez. And it ties into some stuff that we talk in our woo-woo stuff. I mean, we're always talking woo-woo, but the dream, that Zeus is in the dream, ties into a lot of other stuff we've been thinking about. So when you came up out of that dream, what was your thought? Because this is significant. You have a major player here. Zeus shows up.
Well, my first thought was, holy crap, because it was so real.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was like, it was pretty much how you like. I don't know if you've ever seen Clash of the Titans.
I love it. The 80s one.
Well, no, the newer one.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen that, but the 80s one rules. Sorry.
Where he's standing and like the earth is kind of like his floor.
Yes.
It was like that. And it was, he doesn't look like Liam Neeson, I mean, to me it was more of like Sir John Gielgud, anyway. But it's like I remember the humidity, I remember the smell, I remember the that's
what
why.
Did Zeus smell like?
Well, no, it wasn't that. It was like the smell that I remember was like, just like when you go into a forest and it's the smell of all the trees,
the wet wood smell, and
loomy and humus and all that. Yeah,
and that's the smell I associate. So whenever I smell that, I think about that dream.
Oh, that's so perfect. I love that, because it is. I mean, the wood is nature. That is it. That's a perfect tie-in with that major archetype.
Well,
I'm getting the chills out of this one. This is actually what's giving me the most chills tonight.
I just like to talk about wood.
Yeah, of course. Jerry's polishing his knob right now.
No, regular or Norwegian?
Oh,
Norwegian,
right.
Norwegian Blue.
Norwegian Wood, Beatles songs, great song.
That's my favorite Beatles song.
It is a good one.
My son, when he was a baby, he liked two songs. He liked Blackbird.
Oh, I love that from the Beatles too. Yeah.
And If I Only Had a Brain.
Blackbird is the only song I could play on the guitar right now.
Well, that's
good. That's a start.
Yeah.
And that's a good start.
I should rephrase that. That's all I remember how to play.
Oh, okay.
I mean, come on now, that's a classic.
It's a unique piece of music, and it's one of those things. Once you learn it, you can't really unlearn it.
Yeah, no, it's the same thing with Layla from Eric Clapton.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Mhm.
Once you know how to play it, that's it. You know it. You're like, Um,
Yeah,
but
it's crazy.
I'm sorry. What? Yeah,
So
no,
I want to actually linger on this Zeus dream for a minute. And okay, so it's super. And so you were saying it sounds like you were very lucid in it.
Yeah,
Right?
well, no, it was, like I said, to me it was as real as, real get. I mean, I didn't think it was a dream until, you know what I mean? It was like, I woke up in bed and it's
Yes.
just like, my God, did that really just happen? You know? And so it was strange to say the least.
Well, it has everything I look for in exceptional experiences, because you're talking about the scent now that you're associating, right? This is, I mean, this is all tie in with high lucidity. So especially scent is so you have a major archetype. Zeus is just major. This is beyond the personal. This is a very big deal. And then that's tying in with scent and then this hyper realness. This is a very intriguing experience, and this is post your mother and father having passed and post dying 3 times.
And it was a matter of, for me, I always wondered why Zeus, because my degree, I mainly studied Rome and I mainly studied Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I always thought if because my grand religious theory is this: I don't believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
I meant to get to this. Jeez.
I do believe in an ultimate power,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that there are representatives of said power.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say representatives, I mean, Vishnu, and I mean Zeus, and I mean Osiris, and
yes.
And it's like trickle down gods, so to speak. And so for me, I always thought if I were to be visited by one of these quote unquote representatives, it would be something I'm more akin to, as far as like Osiris, or do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes, but doesn't this make it even more fascinating that it wasn't Osiris?
Well, how do you know?
Yeah.
How did you know it was Zeus? Did he identify himself?
I just knew.
You just knew.
I don't know how else to put it.
Well,
yeah.
The one thing I wanted to point out, though, is that Zeus is also the Roman god Jupiter.
Well, and the funny,
which is also pretty much Yahweh.
And that was always my favorite planet growing up.
There you go.
By the way.
But the thing is that you did identify it with Zeus, that it's very specific. And so we can parse out the table of correspondence all the way up to Kronos and all that. That's just insignificant. The fact that it did identify as Zeus to you, however that came through, is very significant. And even if it was Jupiter, it still would be a major, it's still the same, it's still on that correspondence. It's a major archetype, but there's something there that particular flavor of that energy played out as Zeus.
And I mean, I always, the fact that it was a reassurance thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was like, wow, was that really, was that really what the purpose? You know what I mean? Like,
well, what gives me the chills is all the death around you, and then a major player like that comes in here at that particular time after your parents had passed. It's chilling. And we're not here, we don't analyze dreams here, but I am in my head analyzing that, and it's really, of all the dreams I've heard, and I categorize when I say dreams, I'm talking about all the experiences of non-waking life, or what we're considering non-waking, so that I throw in NDEs and OBs. It's really, really significant. since then, since that particular experience, have you had anything that in any way corresponded to it or tied back to it?
I'm iffy on answering that.
Okay, I respect that.
Just for the sheer fact that it plays into some, some matters that are a bit more personal than I mean, like I said, I'll pretty much talk about, anything, but, I'm a little bit sensitive on certain topics.
Yeah, and of course that's a good thing too. And that's also very telling. That's how great this as a person listening to you and enjoying this story, that tells me a lot too.
Well, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I mean, I know the point of this is to interview me, and and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you or Jerry. But
we didn't take it that way. Don't even.
Not at all.
Don't
and
even
this
trip,
is
dog.
It's not even an interview. We consider ourselves chit-chatting with people, and so we don't.
Totally.
We like to get out of that interview mode.
Yeah,
Jerry,
obviously,
never do that again. Oh my God! Wow, you're about as ghetto as wow. That
I live in Atlanta.
Jerry's flossing.
Well, no, yeah, I know you live. I mean, but I'm not sure what part of Atlanta you're in.
Nowhere near where you can get stabbed.
Yeah, I don't even. It's not even really Atlanta, but okay. So let's look at. I want to look at. So what I didn't touch on earlier, but you did. You gave us we know that you came up in a Catholic household and had the Catholic experience, and then through this last little series of adventures, you let us know that you're not really Catholic anymore. So what do you make now of what's your spirituality look like at this point?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna steal a quote from Eddie Izzard. I
love Eddie
because he says he's not an atheist. He's just a non-theist. And to me, that makes more sense as to what my beliefs are, is because I do believe there is an ultimate power. But I mean, I've had to read the Bible and I've had to read the Torah, and I mean, when you go through for a degree in ancient history, they make you read this shit, and there's just too many inconsistencies in everything, and it's like, well, if this is the word of God, then it would be streamlined.
Mm-hmm.
It would be, you know what I mean? I mean, like, it wouldn't be like, okay, wait a minute, there's no consistency here, And by the way, that's something I touch on in my next book, which, by the way, I plan to, go ahead and plug my stuff.
Oh, we're gonna and we'll get you to plug more later. But what is your next book?
Oh, I've been plugging in the chat room like all night. So
good, that's excellent.
Because I'm a whore.
Well, let's do it online, like live. So, what is the next book? Since you just tied right into it. Well,
the next book is just pretty much, rants and raves. It's a lot of things that I've written, observations. It's I would never, ever, never, ever, never compare myself to George Carlin, so I don't want people to misconstrue it. But it's kind of like brain droppings.
Yes.
Where it's just,
I love George Carlin, and seriously.
and that's pretty much what it is. It's just a collection of things that I've written. I talk about the NRA, I talk about the church, I talk about insert topic here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it sounds like a wonderful book, especially if it is tied into anything in this realm of social commentary through, it sounds like, it sounds philosophical. And,
there's a whole, big thing in it that I wrote years and years and years and years ago about the number 666 and its origin, because it was written about Nero. It wasn't written about Satan. It was written about Nero.
And it was 616 too, wasn't it?
Originally, well, it's highly debated on what it originally was, because there's like several different claims about several different numbers. And I don't go into that because there's way too many sites to reference.
And it represents a lot of different things, like a carbon molecule.
And, I'll be sure to get, you and Nish a copy of that book.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
But my writing does reflect my thoughts and my personality. And, I'm when, you get to know me, I'm a very sarcastic person, but I'm also a very, I'm as down to earth as I am based in logic, but I'm open to anything because I do believe that anything is possible.
Well, you've had an extraordinary life so far, and I love to see that. I love people with scars. You literally have scars from. So what about? Let's get into death a little bit. And what do you think, especially since you are friends with the constant companion on a different level? What do you think is death? What is going on? What do you think all that is?
I wouldn't say friends. I would say it's more of a situation of death shows up, and goes, "Oh, you again," But I don't know. It's unique, and it changes you. It changes your perspective. You value honesty more. You value family more. It changes what you value. And so it's a very all-encompassing, action that causes a reaction of grandiose proportion. And it's something that it's one of those things where it's like you go, man, I wish other people could understand it the way I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same breath, you go, yeah, but I don't want them to understand it. Because, in order to understand it, you have to go through a certain, action, so to speak.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like, look at Caligula, for example. He was obsessed with death, and he would always, whoever he killed, he would always stop and be like, what is it like? What is it like? Because he wanted to find out what it was like. But when it finally came to him, he found out and wasn't able to tell anyone.
Right.
So it's kind of like in that vein of thought.
Do you, okay, so what do you think this experience is that we're having that we call waking life, this right now?
I think it's a matter of learning. I think that it's a matter of teaching and being taught, because one of the things that I found when I was homeless was I, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it with pride, and if people think it's a huge example of hubris, I truly don't care. I was homeless for a reason. There were things that I needed to be shown.
Mm-hmm.
And there were people that needed to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I lost count of the amount of people who would show up, at the shelter for the first time, scared out of their minds. And then I take them and I protect them and I show them the ropes, and then they go away. And that kind of in a kind of morose kind of way is a point of pride, because it was like I was there so that way that could transpire. And it was a matter of I was teaching, and at the same time I was learning.
I'm intrigued by the fact that you would even consider that, in as far as other people, hubris, because it seems to me like a sense of it almost seems like a sense of destiny in a way, or, you know, a sense of acceptance and also goodwill towards other people, which you've proven again and again.
But
by the way.
well, see, and that's what I was about to mention is because you know, when talking about my homelessness, which, you know, I'm not ashamed to do, and, you know, I have no discomfort about it. It's a matter of they go, well, you just make yourself sound like a fucking martyr, and it's like, you know what?
I don't pick that up at all.
Well, I mean, to me, you know, I mean, one of my friends, and I'm not going to say his last name, but his name was Jeremy, and he was homeless around the same time I was, and he had severe mental issues.
Before being homeless?
Well, that's why he was homeless. His parents disowned him and kicked him out.
Oh, terrible.
And he was, you know, he was just a kid, and he would be as calm as, you know, calm gets. And then the next minute he would like attack someone for no reason.
Like physically?
Yeah.
Ooh.
And so I kind of, you know, I helped with that. There was my beloved friend Terry, who passed away a couple years ago. And I found out through his sister that he had passed. But when you're homeless in Atlanta, the place that you go to is CNN Center. And what we would do is there was a Starbucks right there inside a CNN Center. So what you do is you get a coffee cup out of the trash can, and then you go and you get a refill.
Oh, geez.
And it was Terry and I, and we were there one morning, and he had diabetes, and he went into a diabetic seizure. And security comes, they're like, get this drunk bum out of here, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, call an ambulance. Yeah. And they're like, we're not calling an ambulance for some drugged out, you know, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, man.
And one of the, I don't know if she's still, I don't watch CNN anymore, but she was a morning anchor. Her name was Soledad O'Brien. And
I remember her on CNN.
And she was in line at Starbucks, and she ordered them to call an ambulance. And, you know, I mean, so that's one of the examples I mean by, like, you know, I you know, if I hadn't have been there, then he would have died.
Do you have, so on this thread here, so when I'm looking upon your life and hearing these stories, I certainly get a sense of destiny with you. And I don't with a lot of people, and that's fine too. But do you have a sense of destiny? Do you feel there's a line on your hand that actually shows that? I'm so interested to look at the Curology of you.
Do you want me to copy or scan my hand for you and send it to you?
Oh, I would greatly enjoy that.
Okay, well,
I love really exceptional cases to look at the hands. That you see my thing with the Curology.
That's going to cost you a bikini picture. Anyway.
Oh, jeez. Okay, I'll spook it up. Anyway, do you have a sense of destiny? Do you actually feel compelled in some way towards helping people the way you do? And how are you feeling? So with this trajectory you've been on from day one to where you are now.
Do you know a song called Alive and Kickin' by Simple Minds?
Yes, of course.
There's a line in that song. There's a line in that song that says, if I don't save you, who's going to save you?
Yes. It's so beautiful.
And that's one of my things, you know. I mean, you know, if I can be a shield, I'll be a shield. If I have to be, you know, a sword, I'll be a sword.
But and you've proven that. But here's the thing: you're in a lot of really dramatic situations that have called for that, where you really do put the rubber to the road, and you don't seem to hesitate. So there's a deeper sense in you. I'm getting that. There's a subtext here within your program. If we were speaking on that level, like, where is this going? What do you think? Have you made anything out of this as far as meaning in all of this stuff you've witnessed, participated in? What do you make of all this, Gordon?
I don't know. I think I think everything happens for a reason. I don't believe in coincidences. I never have. So I think we're all here, like I said, to teach and be taught.
I definitely agree with that.
And the fact of the matter is, no one is one thing or another. Everyone is both. They're both teaching and they're both learning.
Right.
I mean, it's a matter of, I'm a dictionary of cheesy movies.
But, you and Jerry.
But, I don't know.
Totally.
But I don't know anything about tarot cards. Whereas you are, versed in tarot, but I'm willing to bet you're not a dictionary of cheesy movies.
I am not. I've enjoyed some. So I get what you're saying.
So it's a matter of I could teach you and you could teach me, and it makes us better, bigger, better, faster, more, as it were.
Yeah, definitely. So those are kind of all of our basic, this is our basic run for what the data we want to get as far as listening to people and stuff. I'm wondering now if we can kind of move a little bit into, even though you've brought some woo, but some other kinds of woo-woo.
I have no idea what the hell woo-woo,
Well, okay, so let me start here.
Because I hear that.
Jerry's the master with the woo, by the way.
I think of that song, can you woo, woo, woo? That
woo,
one?
Woo, woo.
Oh, yeah. Woo would be... You have a woo light life, much like myself.
It totally does.
I mean, I would have expected that you saw something when you were dead, at least one time.
But then he sees Zeus after.
Yeah. But he was already not dead anymore.
Yeah. But, so really.
But you see, I beg to differ on that.
Okay.
I think.
Oh, okay.
I think like I said, you bring something back, but when you bring something back, you also leave something. And so there's that.
What did Zeus show me on this doll where Zeus touched you?
He touched me in the naughty place. Sorry, no. Stranger danger. You
guys.
It's a matter of, if you're giving and taking, then you're connected. If Nish sat down and taught me what she knows about tarot cards, and I sat down and taught her what I know about B movies, we both learned from each other. But the fact of the matter is, regardless of what happens in our friendship, in 10, 15, 20 years from now, she thinks about a B movie, she's going to go, the only reason I know that is because of Gordon.
Right. And I love reference points like that.
And that's what I meant about the connection with death. I mean,
But that also acts as an anchor for your energy within her consciousness. Well, that knowledge.
Yeah, no, it's it's kind of like bookmarking something. It's like, okay, well, this chapter exists because of this person. And, I think there's a lot of that going on with me and, the connection about death, so I have no other way of putting it. I think I'm still connected, and it's still connected to me whether I want it to or not.
Maybe we're all connected and you're just more aware of that connection, having traveled that path so much.
Yeah, and that's that's also another perspective upon it. Both could be right, both could be wrong. I mean, so
yeah,
I think it's so, but sorry.
What? Okay, so I just want to, and this is a tester question. What do you think about other entities. So I don't even know, like, because my mind's so open to everything, I don't really qualify them much. They could be aliens for some people, they could be demons for others, and all that. But other entities that are non-human.
Yeah.
So you might see them as I mean, there's a whole range of stuff out there. What are your thoughts on that whole gigantic black hole?
Wow, how could I word this?
I just asked a gigantic question. I don't even know where you would go with that, but I just wanted to break the ice.
I've met things that I don't feel were human.
Um,
And that's what I want to talk about.
I've, encountered, I mean, how could I put, okay. I had a seizure one time, when I was homeless, and their protocol is to call an ambulance and send me to the hospital. Now, I personally do not call an ambulance when I have a seizure, because you get to the hospital and the doctor goes, "Oh, you had a seizure. Go home and sleep. $1,200, please."
Yeah. I totally.
And and I don't roll like that, And so this was Grady Memorial Hospital, and I went outside, and it was about 3 a.m, and it was like,
That's a terrible hospital.
yeah, no, well, that's where they filmed The Walking Dead, by the way.
It's a terrible hospital.
But so I was outside.
I shouldn't say that out loud. Sorry. Disclaimer. It's
a county public hospital. Okay?
It's just like they call it death hospital. It's like
every county hospital is called. Think about Cook County Hospital. I wouldn't go near that place.
Yeah. So I just want. I'm sorry. I'm backtracking. Anyway, back to the story.
No, I was outside and I was still kind of disoriented, but I was by myself, and there was this woman, quote unquote, and she had, she looked homeless, and she goes, "Are you okay?" And I told her what happened, and she says, "Well, come over here." And she was sitting underneath, well, for those of you not familiar with Atlanta, across the street from Grady is kind of like a mini park. I guess you would call it, Jerry. What would you call it? Like a mini park?
I thought it was like the parking lot for Turner Field.
No, there's like a little mini park, like with trees and stuff.
No idea. I've never actually been there.
Oh, okay. And so she was sitting underneath the tree, and I went to her, and she had me sit down next to her. And it seemed like just as soon as I sat down next to her, it started raining, because that's how it is in Atlanta. 1 minute it's bright and shiny, and the next minute it's pouring down cats and dogs, and then it's bright and sunny again.
You just love to make it rain.
And so she's like, "Well, just sit here with me, until it stops raining." And so I did, and it stopped raining, and she's like, "Okay, I have to go." And she gets up to walk away, and I say this, I tell this story openly, about my epilepsy, because I don't know if it was a fact that I was, post-ictal, which is what they call it, post-seizure.
Mm-hmm.
But I swear to God, she just disappeared in the thin air,
Oh, wow.
But, and it was like, but by then, it was just a weird experience for me. And I tell it with a grain of salt, for the sheer fact that I was recovering from a seizure, and I could have been hallucinating. So, do you know what I mean? Like,
yes, but then also I realize why you're qualifying that. However, it's also significant because it's usually those kinds of states where we are open, whether we want to be or not, to the possibilities of other other things, other dimensions, however you want to, whatever terminology you want to lay down on that, because it's kind of like a liminal state.
Well, I mean, like I said, that's why I tell it with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
but have you had other experiences like that?
I have. Yeah.
So it's not just a one-off. It's not an anomaly.
No, definitely not. I mean, and the other experiences I had, were a bit more, I don't know, dreamlike, or like you get the impression it happened, but it didn't happen, or
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's like with trying to quantify it, is a bit more difficult because I don't know if I dreamt it or if it actually happened. So
So at this point, what are your so you're definitely open to the possibilities. What do you think? So if we wrap some of this in language, so what do you in specific language, like, so what do you think about extraterrestrial
I believe in them.
stuff?
I mean, look, the fact of the matter is, I've said this before. Look at Jupiter, for example. There's no way anything could live on that. No, there's no way a human could live on that.
Mm-hmm.
But something that breathes in that kind of gas could live on that. And in the same breath, no pun intended, they couldn't live on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're oxygen based, So, I mean, the odds that we're the only planet that has anything living on it, I mean, give me a break. That's scientifically impossible.
Right. We do. I mean, it does seem like humans get caught in that everything is like us, right? That's an act, that's hubris.
Well, when people say, "Oh, there's no such thing as aliens," or blah blah blah, I'm like, look, man, I'm the smartest person I know, and even if I had a week, I couldn't tell you how ridiculous your fucking statement is.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just a worm,
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just an amoeba, it's out there. It may be ahead of us, it may be behind us, as far as evolutionary theory goes, but it has to exist just for sheer logistics.
So okay, but let's talk
only
in
if space is real.
thank you, Jerry. This is where Jerry shines the most. So I'm glad you popped in.
I swear to God, if you say flat Earth,
come on, Jerry.
I will reach through this microphone and bitch slap you on a level of like.
I personally don't know that it's round or flat.
Okay, then explain an eclipse.
I can't.
See, I'm like, don't take it there.
I mean,
Jerry.
I could give. I'm not taking it there, but I mean, that's. It's just a thing. It's something to look at.
Well, I mean, I when it comes to the flat earthers, I just
it's just another belief system. It's like a cult. People get entranced in these beliefs that this is the way it is, and they don't ever get out of it. And I think space may be one of them.
Well, I look at people who view like flat earthers, for example. I wrote a book about the Heaven's Gate cult, and
that I was listening to you talk about that on that podcast, Gordon. Yeah, specifically about that.
And I look at flat earthers as the same way I look at the Heaven's Gate people. It's like it's a great idea at the time, and I'm still
right. But you've gotten culty now.
I'm still trying to figure out.
Well, and he talks about Jim Jones and that it was whether it's murder and.
Well, that might have been a whole op.
Well, I'm still trying to figure out which podcast you were listening to.
I know I X'd out. I wish I wouldn't have done that. Well, I can find it though real easily.
Look into the history of your browser. You'll find it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Real easily, I could. Well, I pulled up a few, but that's the one I listened
to. Because those kind of things they fascinate me. For the sheer fact of a lot of people, especially military people, say, well, you're either a leader or a follower. And so I don't necessarily believe that, but you see all these people who are so quick to be followers. Whether you're talking about like the David Koresh or Jim Jones or Marshall Applewhite or insert cultist here. But I find it interesting that people are so quick to follow and not question. That I think that's what bothers me the most is the lack of questioning.
Well, okay, what do you think about these different kinds of aliens that people are talking about? Like, for example, like the reptilians, and those aren't those. What I understand, a lot of them they're actually from Earth.
Well, I mean, I was kind of worried at first. I'm like, you mean Mexicans? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Dude.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm gonna build a wall. It's huge. Okay, sorry. Well, I mean, one of the things that that's relatable to that, and I have to talk about it because it bothers the crap out of me. Is you see these videos on YouTube about time travelers? Okay, there's this one where this guy, or I'm sorry, this woman. It's from a Charlie Chaplin film, and everyone swears that she's talking on a cell phone. And I'm like, if you knew anything about the time period, you knew about like people who were deaf, and they had these big boxes they would hold up to their ear, and besides that, you couldn't talk on a cell phone anyway because there were no damn satellites anyway. So I mean, it's a matter of I don't doubt that there are aliens. I don't doubt that they came from us, but I'm curious as to if they came from a multiverse platform or not.
Right. Well, that plays, I mean, for me, that just seems more logical. I have a very high IQ also, and somehow that plays into my logic field.
Yeah.
More so than this particular paradigm.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it does play into what you're looking at and what you're thinking about. So, I mean, like I said, do they come from a multiverse? I think that's highly possible.
Well, okay, wait. On that, so have you given any thought to the whole sim reality stuff?
As far as what, like the Matrix kind of a thing?
Kind of. I mean, it's now this is where Jerry really should be shining. Yes, that some of that plays into it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
but there's threads out of it. There are alleys.
Well, I think I mean, I don't necessarily believe in the Matrix kind of theory, but I do believe in the threaded theory, where, in this universe, I'm right-handed. The other one, I'm left-handed. And I have, as the Vulcans would say, IDIC, IDIC, infinite diversity, infinite combination.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think reality is. I think right now in, an alternate, a multiverse theory, there are versions of you and me and, in that universe, I'm a woman, in that universe, you're a man, and, so on and so on and such. So.
Okay. I had a question and I totally drew.
God, don't you hate that?
It's such a strange thing, but no, it was completely relevant. I've been good. Sometimes that happens to me a lot, Gordon.
Let me say to Diane, I didn't mean to be offensive. I was just making a joke. I do apologize if I upset you.
What was said? What did you say?
The joke about Mexicans. And she's Latina, and I wasn't saying that to be offensive. I was saying that
I love our Mexican brothers and sisters.
I was saying that to be sarcastic.
Yeah, I took it as that, but it is. These are sensitive times with all of, with everything's going on.
We covered that earlier. That had to make disclaimers when talking about pizza that we were talking about the actual food.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I just,
I love all of South America, by the way, honey. Don't get me started.
Yeah, I don't care. As long as I'm
Don't get me started. I love
south of this country, I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think, see, I'm what I call the equal opportunity destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
Because I make fun of myself, and so I feel that gives me reign to make fun of everyone.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole. It's well, this is a dangerous thing in a way, and I say that in kind of in a strange light, I suppose, because language right now is kind of outside of Mercury retrograde is getting all twisted and
Gatorade.
Yeah, it's so hard to where we used to be more comfortable just poking fun at each other. Now there's so much serious shit happening, and it's hard for people to understand who's a friend or who's a foe. Is this,
Well,
you speak differently to other people, but clearly you're coming from that Carlin stance, and which I enjoy about you, by the way.
Well, he was one of my. That was one the first album I ever heard was George Carlin, Class Clown.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's where my philosophy comes from.
That was the first of his that I had heard too. I actually saw him once.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah.
I saw him at the Fox Theater in Atlanta.
I saw him somewhere in Chicago. I don't remember where, but it was a while ago. It was right before he died.
I'm my thing is I'm very open about it, and I'll admit when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And one of again, it's going to something I learned from my grandfather. You don't learn anything from being right all the time.
Exactly.
And so when I'm wrong, I say, you know what, kudos to you. You were right. I was wrong. But in the same breath, when I'm right, I'm going to say, look, I was right. Because, if you can, if you think you can brag when you're right, then you have to be able to brag when you're wrong. Because so many people, they go through their lives not admitting they're wrong about anything. And, that's not the way you live. I mean,
no, we have to put, one has to pull things inward.
Yeah. You don't learn anything from being right all the time. I mean, it's okay to be wrong. It's good to be wrong, because if you're wrong, that just shows you have more to learn, and I'm a, huge believer in that, I don't like people who they never admit fault at all. And to me, that is just horrific. Like literally, I think that's one of the worst things somebody can do.
I find that personality trait in a lot of people that have had rather charmed lives where they didn't have anything to worry about, or there was, cue the Annie song, there was not hard knocks for them. And I mean, an unusual amount, the scale tips in favor of people that have just had easier lives. They get that sense of, I'm not sure if it's even an entitlement, but, and I'm not talking on political entitlement. I'm talking here on personal levels and more in a psychological sense. Then I have, it seems like people get knocked around in life, which you clearly have been. I certainly have been. There's life serving up that humble pie. Sorry to use a cliche, but it's rough. It can be really rough. And I think that perspective gives us the flavor in which, or the patina in certain people that earn the right to speak as, philosophically, and owning your own shit. I mean, there's a million memes I could wrap around all this.
There was a quote that I heard, and I took it and I bastardized it into something that was more fitting for me. But it's to the effect of, if you want to see a rainbow, then look at the rain. If you want to look at me, look at the darkness.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
And I feel that's very close to how I feel. Because you know what? If you want nice sunshine, beautiful and fluffy, then don't come to me, because I talk about the way it really is. You know, if, you know, you can ask Adam, you know, if he does something that I think is stupid, I'll be like, dude, you're a fucking moron for doing that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not one of those people who's going to, you know, tell you what you want to hear all the time. I tell you what you need to hear. And if you don't like that, go elsewhere.
Right, but that's also speaks to interpersonal relationships. So, where, I mean, you're going to speak different to Adam than you are a stranger, obviously.
Well,
or maybe you're not. I don't know.
I didn't understand that. Go do that.
What's it? The interpersonal relationship. So that, you know, the relationship we have with other people and the context to it, you can speak freely with Adam in that way, where you can where he understands what you're saying, and there's a level of comprehension, and you don't have all this to unpack as you would to a total stranger or someone in the periphery that doesn't have context to you.
But you see, with that, I beg to differ, because even if it's somebody I've known for a week, mm-hmm. I'll be like, you know what, that was the dumbest thing you could have done. You know?
Yeah, but do you hear that statement? That's different than the way you worded it when your example with Adam, which was a way more relaxed statement.
Well, I was just using an example. I mean, whether it's, you know, I mean, I was saying you could ask him because he knows how I am. I mean,
yeah,
you know, it's just a matter of, if I feel someone, you know, I mean, like you said, you know, people have to own what they do.
Yes, absolutely.
And you know, it's a matter of, I don't care who they are, I call them on it, you know, because I don't like yes men. You know,
nor do I.
I don't like, you know, I
find that's insulting. That whole idea is insulting.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a matter of, you know, you're just telling me what I want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what I need to hear. If I'm being a jerk, I don't mind if somebody goes, Gordon, you're being an ass.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll put myself in check, you know? I mean, so, you know, but it's a matter of being able to realize if you are being an ass.
Right. But then that does call to a certain proximity. Well, see, for me, everything's case by case. So I'm not a generalist, really. I mean, I am with ideas, bigger ideas, but as far as like interactions, everything's case by case. Well, I might love you, but I might hate your brother.
Well, don't worry. I hate my half brother.
Okay.
My God, he's an idiot.
Dude,
I swear to God, I know Carrot's smarter than him.
Oh my God, dude! Don't even put that on the Carrot. Roots are wonderful.
But it's a matter of, you know, I'm a firm believer in know thyself.
Oh yeah, that's a base.
And I feel I know myself very well. But it's a matter of, you know, there's a lot of people who don't know me who think I'm very abrasive. I'm not, you know, I speak 2 languages, English and real shit, you know, and well, no, somebody sent me a meme with that on it, and I'm like, yeah, I've got to use that. But it's true. You know, no truer words have been spoken. I mean, if, you know, look, you know, it's something my dad used to say. It's like, we could sit here all day and jerk each other's dicks, but it's not going to make anything happen. You know?
Well, it could.
And
we're talking a circle jerk for real.
Well, I mean,
get messy.
Wow, you just like, you know.
Sorry, I couldn't help it.
See, now it's just a matter of mental images, and oh my God.
I know.
But you know, I think that falls into, because I believe that your dream life kind of it spills over, for lack of a better term, into your awake life, and
absolutely,
and that has such a huge impact on your perspective of life, you know, because you think that, you know, something's only possible in a dream, you know. I mean, look at Albert Einstein. He came up with the theory of relativity, you know, by changing a light bulb and hitting his head, you know. Um, and so it was pretty much like a hazy thought.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, these hazy thoughts can lead to the altering of reality. There, I said it. You know, so
Well, this, Gordon, this actually brings us back to what we were talking about initially, and the reality, waking reality. I'm actually refocusing us right here. I didn't notice. So I just want to close it out on this.
Oh, we're closing out?
What? No, I want to close this
Oh, I'm like,
this
what?
part out because there's like questions and whatever else could happen. But I wanted to make sure this was all tied up. This because this is part of Nox Mente's our bigger outline. Where do you think consciousness lies? Where is conscious? Even and you could even go so far as to get into what is consciousness and then where is consciousness?
Well, consciousness to me is kind of like the blind wise man, because it doesn't see gender or color; it only sees logic and cohesion. It's a matter of, you know, taking everything that you learn and then turning it around so that way you can teach it. You know, I mean, like I said, you know thyself. And to know thyself, you have to know your limits.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to know your limits is to push your limits.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, a phrase that I've had, you know, since I was in junior high is a life without risk is a life that has yet to be lived.
Didn't somebody else say that?
Yeah, but I don't, you know,
So what?
I didn't say
Thomas Paine or something.
I didn't say I came up with it. I said
Okay.
that, you know, that's been my, yeah.
But that is, it seriously is a truth though. It's a deep one.
Well, but it, not only is it deep, but it's practical to the nth degree. You know, because if you go and you play it safe every hour of every day, you're not going to learn anything.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to learn anything about yourself. You know, you're not going to learn anything about your spirit, your personality. You know, you're not going to learn anything about your character. And, you know, one of my friends used to, you know, say to me, you know, do something every day that scares you. And I don't know where he got it. I've heard it several times.
Yeah, it's made the rounds.
Yeah, I've heard it several times, but that was his mantra. And every day he, you know, I mean, like he was afraid of heights. And so they took a trip and he went to the Empire State Building, you know, I mean, you know, so, but it's a matter of, I don't know, it's a matter of consciousness equals, you know, logic, and logic to me is all encompassing. Even with emotions, you can apply logic. You know, so I think people would be better off if they got to know themselves before making judgment calls about others or about, you know, I mean, because I could sit here and I could say, you know what? I really don't like the fact that you do tarot cards. I think they're, you know, but anti-Christian or whatever.
They're demonic.
Yeah. You know, because there's a lot of people who are like that.
The dog agrees.
Well, it's always the person, like the classic example. It's always like the person that says homosexuals are going to hell that, you know, they find in a rest area sucking cock.
Right.
So it's you know, it's that whole thing of you are what you hate, and all the degrees therein. So I mean, we must be careful, or we must at least observe what we're what we're projecting out. I think at least see it for what it is before you throw conviction behind it, because it's possible. I think it is I think that it is, it's a part of you that you don't want to recognize. And if you bring it in somehow and assimilate it, there's a whole different experience with it.
Well, I truly think that your dreams are part of a bigger picture, because the connection to your conscious self, it's that, chain of command, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is connected. Everyone is connected,
Mm-hmm.
whether you like it or not. And
that's the real grid.
well, no, truly, because we all come in this earth the same way. We all go out, I mean, we're all going to die. We're all going to go through certain things in our lives that creates that common bond, that commonality. But we spend too much time focusing on the differences.
Right.
And
absolutely.
That disappoints me. People, they spend too, homosexuality or, insert, problem here. They focus on that. And it's like, look, let's talk about what makes us the same.
Well, I actually like our differences. So, I mean, if the world was filled with my people of like mind with me, I mean, geez, there would be no agitation at all to create. Like, I want to, I don't know. I could just go off on that now.
But my implication to that is the fact that if we focus on what makes us the same, then we have the foundation to understand our differences.
Yes, definitely.
And that is why I say, let's focus on what makes us the same. Because, if I sit here and say, well, let's focus on our differences, we're not going to have any kind of clear understanding. But if we use the basis of our commonality as a foundation, it makes us easier to understand our differences that build into our characteristics.
I agree with that. I'm just like more of a traveler, I suppose. And I mean that in a very large way, soul traveler, like however you want to take it. So I really like to stumble upon things that are quite different from me, and that just on the food level, like I'll pretty much, unless it's really, unless you're serving me human, I'm gonna be open to trying things and then make a judgment call from there. And that's what I mean by indifferences, and that's what I mean by case too. So
when I was just off track for a second, when I was homeless, I hunted deer, raccoon, possum.
Oh, that's so Southern.
Well, I mean,
I know people that love possum in the South. That's like not a meme. It's real.
But when you're homeless, it's
a delicacy.
I've tried possum. I can tell you, it tastes greasy and stringy.
It's a completely different ballpark when you're homeless.
I can imagine.
But I'm proud to say I never begged. The only thing I ever stole was like, I would steal like a sandwich from like a mini mart or something, but other than that, I never stole and I never begged. That's like, it's kind of, but sorry.
Well, that's like part of your character. So I'm wondering, have you laid out the questions, Jer?
Nobody has any questions. We're all pretty good. We're good to go.
Yeah,
it's amazing no one has questions for you, Gordon. After you've like thrown so much stuff out here.
Nobody likes me.
Everybody loves you.
Oh.
I can't tell you how many people said this is a great show. This has been a fantastic. No, really, seriously, nobody's had any complaints.
If they liked me, they'd have
that
questions.
Diane person was. No, I'm kidding.
They don't care.
I did want to tell you though, it was that lightning the void radio.
Lighting the void.
That's Joe Rupe.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you, we're related, but we're not related. There are 4 different factions of the Roop clan, and he's on the other side of it. So we're like 18th cousins, but like 4 times removed or some crap. I don't know.
It's interesting.
Well, I'm the genealogist in my family. I took over doing that when my grandfather died, and I have our family going back to the 1500s. And
I have ours goes back to 1100s.
Yeah, it's well, some people, man,
on one side. I can't claim that on both sides, by the way.
Some people, man, they go and they just, oh my God. It's
mine has, ours has, on that side of my family, they've been longtime Masons, and Masons keep really great records, like the Mormons. I mean, they're just really great records. So it wasn't even, I think a lot of people, I can't remember, I thought it was Suzanne who told me this. I think a lot of times there's a disconnect from when people came to America, names got changed and stuff. If you can get over the American hurdle, then there's a lot of other records going on that take you back far.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, the easiest records I found were the Scottish, a lot of the Scottish heritage websites.
Mm-hmm.
Their records are so extensive. Oh man, it's like a genealogist's wet dream.
And I'm interested in all that stuff. This is one of the reasons why. I don't know if you know Suzanne Potter Thomas, but she's.
We used to work together.
Is this for real?
It was her job to lure the children into the van.
Oh, dude. Oh my God.
She was a driver. Because she's an excellent driver.
You guys.
Yeah, excellent driver. Yeah.
But she is like one of the best researchers I know. And I love talking this kind of stuff with her. Like the genealogy and just how things can connect, especially when you start looking at historical movements. I'm totally off on a tangent here.
No, we're done. So we're floundering.
I do that.
Okay.
I do that to people. We start off with one topic and then we end up on the complete different side of the world. And we're like, yeah.
That's kind of the point of the show.
But to summarize the whole dream thing, I mean, I'm a very strong believer that dreams reflect who and what you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they show you things that you can't realize when you're awake.
Well, I guess one of my main questions with it is, do you think that there's more to it than just it's a function of your brain?
Oh, most definitely. There's definitely more. I think that's how you send and receive messages, so to speak. They may not always be cohesive because your brain can't interpret that kind of thing, so it puts it in the way it understands. So the whole metaphor is created because your brain can't interpret what is being directly sent to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, with television, you need an antenna or
I love the antenna analogy. I think it holds up still.
But it's no truer words have been spoken. It's, that.
Oh,
antenna.
Come on, Gordon. You've spoken truer words tonight.
Oh, whatever. I could tell so many horrible, dirty stories about my father. Anyway.
Oh dear, I love a dirty story, but that's for another time. That should be for the Hive.
Well, no,
you could tell it this week. It's synchronized, so you can.
Gordon, have you been on the Hive, Jerry's show on Fridays?
Saturday.
It's Saturdays now.
We did one that was a spontaneous one. Yeah,
Jerry's always good. That's how Jerry rolls.
I'll tell you a quick story. We were at a bar, my dad and I. Because we played pool, we just love play pool together. And this guy is like talking to this girl and he's bragging about how big his dick is, He's
Of
like,
course.
he's like, oh baby, you can't do it, you know. And so my dad puts down his beer and he walks over and he says, how's this? You pull out yours and
Oh.
I'll just pull out enough to win.
Oh my God. Oh man, Trump that. That's hilarious.
It was awesome.
That's a good one. I personally want to use that.
I'm
that's what you got. Here's my tip.
I'm not sure how you would that would apply to you.
No, that's why. Well, no, I don't have one, but or do I? No, but I like being able to use that. That's hilarious. I'll probably get beat up if I actually try to do that.
It's you go back to Crocodile Dundee. That's not a knife. That's a knife.
That's
right.
Or that jackass who got himself killed.
Well,
oh yeah, that was interesting actually.
I'm in no. I mean, I'm not gonna sound. I don't want to sound like a jerk off here, but I'm in no rush. If you guys are in no rush, I mean,
I actually do need to wrap.
Yeah, we need
soon.
to wrap this. We need to wrap up.
Oh, fine. That's okay.
I'm sorry. It's a 2-hour show. I got shit to do.
No, it's
But this has been super fun. Really easy to talk with you, Gordon. I cannot believe how much stuff you brought to the table.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
There's stuff and literally new stuff for me to hear. I've been talking dreams a very long time. I just am. Yeah, so we're gonna have to pick your brain again, and Jerry and I have some other ideas for other shows.
Drilling down into some NDE stuff. We would definitely have you back for that.
Mm-hmm.
Darcy just said something in the chat that is just.
Hey, Darcy, I love my Darcy out there.
She just said something really, really great. She said it's all metaphor because that's our scenario.
Yeah.
And
rock on, sister.
I think that is exactly what I was trying to get across.
Mm-hmm.
It's put in terms you can understand.
Yeah.
And she worded it way better than I did.
That's funny because this is funny as Darcy gets on Radagast chat and it always seems like people aren't understanding what I always understand Darcy. I speak Darcy. And so I'm always right there with her. I mean, half of it's really great old lyric, like rock lyrics and metal lyrics and stuff.
My wife tells people she speaks Gordonese.
Yes, right. See, like some people you can understand.
I speak typo.
But I like hearing that you understood exactly what Darcy said. That's what I'm saying. Rock on, sister.
Well, she worded it way better than I did. I mean, but that's what I was trying to get across.
Yeah.
No, but okay. Well, let's see. Well, it's 9:45, so you guys just want to kill the 15 minutes and wrap it down?
I cannot wait to go urinate, Gordon. This is a long time. I had like 2 glasses of tea.
Wow, that is way more information than I ever needed.
I know. Right?
No, we're going on 2:45 right now.
No,
it's been a long Nox Mente.
That's what I meant by killing it. Did you want to kill it here?
Yeah. I was going to say goodbye. I was going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Thanks everybody for coming.
Well, I'd like to.
Yeah, go ahead. Pitch.
I'd like to thank everybody for showing up to listen to me babble about crap. I mean,
Tower
yeah. But Jerry has the link to my book site if you don't mind, Jerry.
It's in. It'll be in the description if it's not there already. Pretty sure I put it.
But all of my books are available, and they're all $3 and under.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Next month is going to be Juggernaut because I'm coming out with 4 new books.
Jeez, Gordon, you are busy.
Well, it takes me a long time to translate them. So, and because trust me, 8 different languages, it takes a while.
I know. Oh my God.
You are doing the translation.
That's intense.
Jesus.
Well, I mean,
for punishment. I know you don't have an editor to do it. I get it.
Well, no, I don't want an editor.
True.
I want to be able to say what I want to say, and tell everybody if they ain't down with that, I got 2 words for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
My favorite 2 words.
But thank you everyone for having me. Nish, thank you. Jerry, thank you.
Oh, thank you, sir.
And I look forward to being on. What now is it? It's
We
Eastern
don't know.
time.
Yeah, it's Eastern time.
Eastern time. Okay. And what
You've
time?
got to be on the Hive, definitely.
Well, I'm supposed.
He will.
Yeah, I'm on. I am on Saturday, right?
Yeah, on Saturday. We already worked it out. He's
Okay, good.
been on the list
Yeah.
before he was coming on. No.
Yeah, don't
Okay.
scare me like that.
No, I just can't. I mean, I'm going to tune in. I don't go to the Hive very often because I'm usually busy.
Well,
But the synchro nights are special.
I
Yeah.
challenge you to show up this Saturday then.
Oh, look at you. I love the challenge.
It's a throwdown.
You called me Gordy, so technically you owe me.
Oh, shit. Oh, my God. You're calling that in already. Okay.
The perfect point to say goodnight.
Yes, I know. Look at we're still going.
No.
Yeah.
Next week we have this guy, Intuitive Jacob, who I know nothing about.
Jacob's awesome. He's going to be a good show.
I think he's intuitive, so we got that.
He's a
going.
tarot reader and music. He
Okay.
does great music, and he does like life readings, but he's also had the NDE, near death experience, and is a prolific dreamer.
Rookie.
Yeah, he's only had one, I think.
All right, so that'll be our show next week. And thanks again for joining us this week. And we did an interview with Off Planet Radio or Media last night. So keep an eye out for that. It should be posted on their channel this week.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Really
Randy
good.
Muggins and Emily Moyer. Fantastic.
Really great time. So everyone look for that. And we hope you enjoy your evening.
Good night, everybody.